Okay. So, let's... Game is, hey. Let's get the whole camera on there. The game is, the old 3 M's, Mr. President. This has actually a couple of listings over at Board Game Geek. I don't know why. I don't know that there's any significant difference between the two different print runs. It's kind of disturbing to me. This is one of my all-time favorites. This is a game that I was, I don't know, probably around 7 or 8 years old when I got it, and maybe 9, I don't know. My dad brings these things home to me from flea markets, tag sales, stuff like that, and I already liked politics, there's no question there, but my family played a lot of games together, and this was the first one I can remember, strangely enough, where nobody would play it with me. I mean, my parents gave it a try. They hated it. They absolutely hated it. I brought it to Gamers, however, and might have gotten some lukewarm receptions and some very, very positive ones. I haven't seen a replication, and I don't know why my folks despise this game so absolutely. With its, secret placement, etc., it just doesn't seem like it's a simple mechanism. This was the only game that they really disliked before I started getting into war games. And then they started saying, alright. But with this, for whatever reason, they just absolutely despised it. And let's take a look at why I love it so much, and I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. It's got this nice simple mechanism. I used to play at Solitaire a lot. I don't so much anymore. It was kind of fun to play it again. But I got more and more used to playing it with people once I found people willing to play it. And it really is an enjoyable, especially in the 4-player, kind of social experience. There's a definite competition involved, decision making, but enough luck and enough luck that affects your decision making in the sense that your hand of cards decides where you're going to try to go, for example, that it feels like almost the perfect mix for me. I'm not a big fan of the pure strategy game, and I'm certainly not a fan of something that's purely luck. But this just has that nice sort of middle ground where you've got a lot of luck, but I'll tell you, the better player wins, almost invariably. And once people, there's not a huge learning curve on this though. Once people kind of get the game, they can become competitive very quickly. And that may be kind of the disadvantage to it, is that there's not a lot to explore here. My simple strategy of screw the small states, well, honestly, that works in almost any election game. But there aren't a lot of different options here, a lot of different levers to play with. You've got your advertising, and you want to do it if you can. You want to get rid of cards quickly if you can. There's a lot of little goals that you've got here. Press support, going to home state for that, not so important. You want to get the debate bonus. Basically, there's a couple of things that really factor you here. One is, well, you want to win states, right? But on your way to that, there's a couple gamey aspects that you have to deal with. One is the undecided voter stack. Winning that, and how do you do that? You do that through the debates, and you do that through collecting lots and lots of states. Collecting lots of states has an incidental effect. If you're in states where your opponent isn't, you're going to win those states. All right. So now the other side of it is the other kind of gamey mechanism to it is getting rid of your deck. The more of your cards that you can just play where you want to, and the less that your opponent can play what he wants to and end up in the undecided voter stack, the better your vote totals are going to be, right? I mean, if you've cast votes and they haven't, and then you're going to split up the remainder, well, you're at an advantage there. So those are sort of the two things you want to aim for. You want to get your votes cast, and I think that's more important than trying to wait to get them in the right places for the most part. You can change your decisions on where you're going to go based on getting rid of where you got rid of your cards, but you don't really want to hold out until you can get, the perfect die rolls that you need. You might end up throwing some decent cards in other places. I think it's a bad move, though, in general, to get rid of your big California, New York cards somewhere else. The real question is how much balance do you need there? In this game, because the Republicans ran away with it so fast, no one really played there, so that balance kind of shifted away from those states. But some games, those are just huge battlegrounds, and they get filled up by both players. And then it comes down to the undecided voters kind of do it. This game would have been a 10, with no question, long ago. And I think I'm going to raise it to a 10 for me at this point, for the same reason that I've raised La Révolution Française and some other games that I just love the game so much. And I'm going to say the hell with it, I don't have to respect everything about the game to give it that rating. In this case, what is it that's the big downside for me? The historical link to what a campaign is like. So, the amount of effort spent in states makes sense if those are battleground states. Even in the day where this game was produced, where maybe outside the South, every state was kind of more in play than they are today. There was still huge advantages, not these little slivers for one side or another. And it wasn't decided through mechanisms that were easily represented by the campaign manager's point of view. And today it's even more of a difference there, which is, you're not going to budge New York State and make it vote Republican very easily. A candidate like Reagan or something can possibly do it, but to capture the opponent's sort of core states has always been a real hard task. And, it's the rare election that's sort of the Nixonian one, right? Where we're talking Nixon versus McGovern here, where he just totally blasts someone out. Now, the totally defeating someone and wiping them out is maybe theoretically possible in this, where you have these just really one-sided election counts. I think that's actually possible. If somebody is just consistently being outplayed in almost every state, they will lose, and they will lose huge. So that possibility's there. I don't mind that. But here's the thing. The game usually revolves not around, I've got this block of states, you've got this block of states, and we're fighting over kind of the states in the middle. And maybe we can be popular enough that we'll just sweep everything. No, it's so. In a historical campaign, if you're winning the battleground states, then you move it to the opponent's kind of core states and try to defeat him there, so that you have this mandate going into your actual term of office. Well, this game and very few games, I can't think of one off the hand. And if anybody can think of something that really handles it well, 1960 is a little bit better, but not much. It doesn't really capture that. Okay, these states are just aligned with this side, and you could go fight in them if you want, but they're so counterbalanced. And in this game, I don't feel like they are either. I feel like there's not that strongholds that really fall. And in this game, actually, those are just the tiebreakers at best. And I just don't think that's at all realistic of what the situation tends to be in most elections. That's my quibble with it. And if you're mainly a game player, you shouldn't care about that one bit. But if you're kind of like me and you're a little bit worried about, you want the thing to represent what it's representing almost entirely. You don't care. So I don't mind. I mean, the level of abstraction that this game achieves is fantastic. That doesn't bother me one bit. What bothers me is when I see that abstraction still doesn't cover what's really going on there. And I don't think I've seen an American election game yet that does a really good job. And, at either the presidential race itself or in the primaries. They've got things like Road to the White House, etc., and they all fail at this. However, this is a wonderful, wonderful game. It's so fast, probably an hour or less, I think. I seem to remember it being... This is the kind of thing we use as filler, and actually that's why I brought it up, because I had just played Succession, which I think is a good game. And I said, I don't have a lot of filler games. Which one would I bring up? And it's this one. This is the filler game that I would bring to the table more often probably than anything else if given that kind of situation, that kind of choice. Hey, we got an hour and a half here. What are we going to do? Okay. Let me amend that. I'd bring bridge. We play cards most of the times. But if we were going to play a board game, this would be definitely one that I was almost always willing to push that extra little bit of time in. I have a number of them that, hey, I'm okay playing, and I feel like Succession fits in with that. Things like Pentacle and I don't know, Nuke War or Illuminati or something like that. These other light games that, yeah, they're fine for it, but very few of them would excite me the way that bringing this would. And my feeling is that I see copies of this kicking around at low prices. I'm actually thinking about picking a replacement because mine's so beaten up. But I see copies of this kicking around at low prices, and I'm just not sure that many people are aware of how cool a game it actually is. I've always been a fan of it, but I don't see it discussed much. And it kind of surprises me when things like Acquire, which isn't a bad game, there's no question, but things like Acquire end up getting this sort of godlike status as spawning this whole Euro movement or whatever. Now, Acquire's a great game, and I liked it at the same time as I like this. I like a lot of these 3M games, but this was the one that I think I always enjoyed the most, always wanted to play the most, and walked away from the happiest each time. Acquire, it's somewhere between Scrabble and Monopoly, right? I don't know. No, I mean, Acquire is actually a very interesting game. I can't get too excited about it because the story that it tells, the map that it tells, doesn't really draw me in the same way, even though the gameplay is fine. I'd rather play something like Fast Food Franchise if we were going to play that. Anyway, all right. I really got to get back to SPQR, but something in me says, longer break. But I've already broken with 2 games. They were small, but I should get back to those and try to at least rip another one off this weekend.